Donkey Kong Bananza is releasing later this week, and at least based on what we know right now, it's looking to be possibly the highest profile game to come out exclusively for the Switch 2 during this year. There's a whole lot of other stuff coming out to be excited about, but as far as like a big first-party title, something that, you know, while being Donkey Kong is also using a lot of the team from the 3D Mario side of things, so we're channeling a bit of that energy, it's going to be, I think, one of the biggest releases, and hopefully the review scores that we'll be seeing soon reflect that. But with it coming out this week, I want to take a look at what else is coming up ahead for the Switch 2 and what the schedule looks like for the rest of 2025. Because something I think people are inevitably doing is comparing this system's first year to the original Switch, which is a tall order to fill. I mean, just going with Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey coming out in the same year alone is a lot to go up against. But I want to look at how the Switch 2's first 6 months are currently shaped, and also just explore a little bit how it might fill out a little bit more, because I don't think Nintendo has shown us everything just yet. Now, I want to divide some of these games up into different categories, and the first one we're going to talk about are first-party games. Those games that are first-party developed, or at least first-party published by Nintendo coming out for the Switch 2, or games that are going to be cross-gen with the original Switch but offer the better performing mode with the new system, which we have quite a few games still coming up this year that are already officially confirmed, though only a couple of them actually have release dates. Now, as far as ones that actually have release dates go, we're getting Drag X Drive on August 12th, which that's kind of a lower-priced digital-only experimental title. I think it's really meant to be a game that's going to help showcase how the mouse controls can be used in some more interesting ways, similar to what ARMS did for the original Switch. I'm very curious to see how this one's going to perform, because I know a few people that are very excited about it, getting a little bit of almost kind of Rocket League vibes off of it. Not my thing personally quite as much, but because it is also coming out at a lower asking price, I think there's going to be a little bit more room for people to give this game a shot that they may not have otherwise if it was a $60, $70, $80 game. And then a little later in the year, on October 16th, we'll be getting Pokemon Legends ZA, which, while that is a cross-gen game, based on just what we can look at right now with how Pokemon Scarlet and Violet looked and ran on the original Switch and how it now runs on the Switch 2, and not to the same extent, but still an improvement for Pokemon Legends Arceus, I think it's very likely that while the game is probably viable and playable on the original Switch, it's probably going to be a much smoother, better-looking experience on the Switch 2. And so while there are absolutely going to be people picking it up for the original system, I am curious if this is going to be one that maybe gets a few more people invested in upgrading sooner than later if they've been holding off still. And that's actually it when it comes to first-party releases that have hard dates. Worth noting, that's not including games that are also going to be getting Switch 2 upgrades that have not gotten them yet. For instance, Super Mario Party Jamboree is getting its Switch 2 update on July 24th, while Kirby and the Forgotten Land is getting updated on August 28th. These are the more full-featured big updates. These aren't like the free patches like we saw happen for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, so you do have to pay for these to get the Switch 2 version, but you're getting a whole bunch of new stuff on top of performance updates, with Kirby and the Forgotten Land getting new playable levels, and Mario Party Jamboree getting new minigames, primarily those that are capitalizing on some of the Switch 2's new features, like the mouse-style controls or using the camera. Now, as far as games without release dates go, there are quite a few left that we'll hopefully be hearing an update on soon. I mean, there's been plenty of rumor that we're going to be getting a Nintendo Direct, possibly this month. Whether that's this week, next week, or happening at all, we don't know yet, or at least as far as when I'm recording this video, we don't know yet. But there are a couple titles we're still waiting on dates for that are supposed to be releasing this year. The big one, of course, being Metroid Prime 4, which is a cross-gen release for original Switch and Switch 2. The Switch 2 update is bringing those better-looking visuals along with mouse-style controls if you want a slightly more mouse-style feeling FPS experience. And while we don't really know a ton about them outside of the teaser trailers that came out as part of the Switch 2 reveal, we are supposed to be getting both Kirby Air Riders and Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment this year as well. They just don't have locked-in specific dates yet, at least not ones that have been announced. Kirby Air Riders, admittedly, I don't really have much history with. I did not play the original one, though I do know some people who are big fans of it. Hyrule Warriors, on the other hand, I really like what Omega Force has done for the collaborative Musou-style games. Some have been bigger hits than others. The original Fire Emblem Warriors, it was okay. Fire Emblem Three Hopes, I liked a lot more. And then with Hyrule Warriors, we of course got Legends on the Switch, which ran fantastically, and then Age of Calamity, which did not run so great, but does run a lot cleaner on the Switch 2 now, so hopefully that is the case for Age of Imprisonment as well. I think there's a lot of potential for this one in particular to be something a little bit more unique and interesting, since it is taking place in a very different time period and could have a very different looking roster of characters, potentially not even emphasizing Link all that much compared to a lot of the other cast members of the Zelda universe. So this is one I really want to learn a lot more about, and hopefully we see at an upcoming Direct. Now, as for third-party games, I want to focus a little more on those that are going to be exclusive to the Switch, but we will touch on real quick those games that are either very delayed ports now coming to Switch 2 because the power level allows it to support those games, or those titles that are just upcoming big multi-platform releases later this year. As far as things that are exclusive to Switch 2, or at least the Nintendo Switch line of systems, console-wise, some of these are PC releases, we have the upcoming No Sleep for Kaname Date, which releases this month on the 25th. This is a side release to the Somnium Files games that I'm a huge fan of, so this is something I'm personally really looking forward to. We're also getting Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar on August 27th, and then sometime this year, unless it gets delayed some more, we should also be finally seeing Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. All three of these games are cross-platform. None of these ones in particular are Switch 2 specific, but they are games to look forward to. And then one other cross-gen game I want to shout out real quick, which we actually just very recently learned about, is Mahjongami. Now, this is coming from Inti Creates, which, if you're not familiar with them, they were responsible for a lot of the later life cycle Mega Man titles like Mega Man Zero and Mega Man ZX, and later on went on to do their own spiritual successor stuff with Azure Striker Gunvolt, and one of my personal favorites, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, which is a great old school reinvention of Castlevania. This new game is giving off a little bit more of a later vibe than that. It's actually giving me visually a lot of the vibes of some Vanillaware games, in particular Muramasa. They just announced this. It is coming to the regular Switch as well as the Switch 2 and PC, but that is it console-wise, and so that's what I'm very curious to see how it's going to run on both systems, and I'm very excited to play it on the Switch 2. As far as some other third-party games that are Switch 2 exclusive that aren't just very delayed ports like Elden Ring or Star Wars Outlaws, there is also a new indie game coming out from Nitrom that I'm very excited for called Mousework. Technically, this is not hard confirmed for this year. They just wanted to get it out as soon as possible after the Switch 2 released, but hopefully that ends up being in 2025, if not, hopefully very early next year. This just looks like a ton of fun with just a whole bunch of little party micro games. Now again, when talking third party, there are also some multi-platform titles to look forward to. A lot of those delayed ports with stuff like Star Wars Outlaws, Disgaea 7 Complete, FF7 Intergrade, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition. All great looking games if you haven't had the chance to play them elsewhere just yet, and the Switch 2 is now going to be opening up a new way to do that for you. But as we've at least seen so far with the Switch 2, support for those titles where there are people that want to play them is not quite as strong as, brand new games that you haven't had the chance to already buy elsewhere just yet, which there are some other multi-platform releases coming out this year. Square Enix in particular has a whole lot of stuff that I'm personally excited about. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Collection, Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster, we're getting Borderlands 4 later this year, which is getting a Switch 2 version, and if it actually really happens, Silksong could actually be released this year. That'll be coming to that system as well, although I don't really see that being a title that's going to benefit all that much on the Switch 2 compared to the Switch 1, though probably at least a better, sharper looking version thanks to a higher resolution support. All in all, looking at all these upcoming games as well as Donkey Kong Bananza and everything we got back at the Switch 2 launch, I think the system is having a very solid 6 months. I think there's always going to be that desire for more. People are always going to be demanding for just wanting to have the biggest, best possible release possible for a system, and it's tough when you're going head to head with the original Switch, but I think the Switch 2 is putting up a pretty decent fight so far. I honestly don't think this is everything just yet. When you're looking at the first party releases, whether they're cross-gen or Switch 2 specific, almost a game coming out every single month, and I feel like there's still actually room for one or two more surprises. Like I said earlier in the video, there's been a lot of rumors that we're going to be getting a Nintendo Direct sometime this month, and while a lot of that could be things like revisiting games we've already heard about but giving more specific information on, locking in release dates for some of those other 2025 releases like Kirby Air Riders and Metroid Prime 4, I think there is also the room for one or two more surprises. As far as what those things could be, this might be a little bit on the cope side of things, because this is one game I talk about every time lately when I'm looking at what Nintendo could be announcing very soon: Fire Emblem. It has been quite some time since we got the last full release, and at least based on some circumstantial data that's been around for a while, there might even be a game that has been in development for a long time in the franchise that just got skipped over and hasn't actually released yet. And there are many, myself included, who hope this could be a remake of Fire Emblem 4, which I would be totally down for, as well as just being excited for literally anything new at this point. I didn't really love the big anniversary title release that was Fire Emblem Engage. The combat was fantastic, but there was a whole lot of other aspects of it that I just didn't really vibe quite as much, and I'm very curious to see where they want to take the series headed next after both that and the much more experimental Three Houses that did away with a lot of series traditions and added in a Persona-style calendar system. So how the next actual mainline Fire Emblem could shape out to be is a little bit of a wild card right now, and I very badly want to know what that is. There are certainly a number of other first-party titles that Nintendo hasn't tapped into in a little bit that we could hope to see happen for the system sometime soon. I've seen plenty of people hope to get a new Mario game very soon, but I honestly don't think that's the case right now, when Wonder was still a fairly relatively recent 2D release, and we know that the Odyssey team is working on Donkey Kong Bananza, so I think that really detracts from the idea of a 3D Mario this year. It's always possible there are other circumstances where it is happening, and that would be very cool, but I'm just personally pretty skeptical of it right now. Star Fox is something they haven't tapped into for quite a while that I think people just want to see Nintendo figure out what they're doing with it, especially since it ended up being sat out on the entirety of the Switch life cycle, where we just didn't get any brand new release. And there's always opportunity for more things like Mario spin-offs with another Mario sports title of some sort. Hopefully just me talking about this in a video right now is manifesting the energy that Nintendo just decides to announce a Direct right after this goes live, because I would love that. Or possibly could it be happening next week. I do personally believe that we are due for a Direct in July still. I know there was a little bit of hesitation on that because the Switch 2 just came out back in June. July isn't traditionally when they do Directs unless there's other reasons to push it back, which I think a release would play a part of. So I do think there are chances we'll be seeing a Direct this month that could bring some more info. It could just end up being a more play it safe style one, where they just focus on diving into a lot of games we haven't learned more about yet, like Kirby Air Riders and Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. But I do think that if there is one this month, there is the chance of just one more surprise, like one other game just to sneak in there and reveal for coming out before the end of this year. I think the Switch 2 as is already off to a solid start, but with the right extra releases this year and early next year, I think it'd still have a very strong year library-wise. So that's just a look ahead right now on the Switch 2 library and what gaps I think we could see maybe filled in the near future. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys think. What games are you excited about? What stuff do you want to see revealed that has not been talked about just yet? Do you think we're going to get a Direct this month? Let me know down below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button to let me know. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you all later.